Good morning, beautiful people. I am Vicky Jeter, your practitioner, contract spiritual director for Louisville Center for Spiritual Living teaching chapter. Happy St. Patty's Week. Happy spring solstice. Happy Women's History Month. I'm so happy. See if you can say that with me like Pharrell Williams. I'm so happy. We have so much to be sharing about today, and that's just icing on the cake to our actual topic. So we're just going to dive right in, and I'll actually reveal more about the topic a little later. For this time, in opening our service, is for setting intention for yourself and together. So take a few seconds to check in with your intention for being here today. Collectively today, we are all about all these fabulous special celebrations and continuing our exploration of cultivating authenticity. Today includes also very rich multicultural perspectives from both Native American Indians and Ireland. Our discussion is all about the powerful and in some ways mystifying dynamic of personal boundaries, especially how healthy boundaries build bridges of harmony and actually help us to create the world that we all see in our hearts and minds. So just take that in for a moment. How is it that boundaries can actually create unified freedom? With that in mind, let us begin at the beginning in gratitude and taking that pausing breath. Take a pausing breath and allow yourself to arrive here more completely, more present. And I open our prayer this morning saying thank you. It's already been so much fun and so much a gift. Thank you, Spirit, for the gift of this day. Thank you for the gift of life that opens the package for our adventures and opportunities for even more good in our lives today. And from this space of gratitude paid forward, I absolutely recognize the one life, the one love, the one universal divine creative presence that is all that is, and thus it is as I am. It is the I am of each person within the sound of my voice, either now or listening to the recording. And from this alignment of unity in mind, heart, and soul, I realize in this moment that our opportunity to embrace and embellish all of these celebrations, St. Patrick's Day and Women's History Month and multicultural diversion, is a gift that is to be embellished, embodied, and paid forward. That Louisville Center for Spiritual Living is truly a light on the planet, holding doors and windows open for everyone seeking what is here. And I know that the seekers here present are what creates this incredible gift. It is a giving and receiving. It's a flow that's always flowing. Thank you, God, that we might hold ourselves open as vessels of spirit, for certainly this is a work of the divine. And those of us in our human form are but in the spiritual classroom about the giving and receiving. And so I simply release it with the heart of a child. I let it be, and so it is. Amen. So I welcome each and every one of you with my whole heart to Louisville Center for Spiritual Living teaching chapter. Whether you're with us for the very first time, or whether you've been with us many times, or if your way is to be with us on Zoom, thank you for your presence today. And we start each day greeting God and the angels LCSL, and each and every one of you in heart and soul. Vernon and I set up and we light our God candle, inviting everyone who's seeking to find us. So we hope that this is the first impression you have of us when you pop into our Zoom room, that you are welcome here. Next, we'll say our mission and vision to keep our ground and our direction. The mission of Louisville Center for Spiritual Living is to teach personal transformation as a virtual community, living the principles of science of mind and celebrating all paths to God. And our vision statement is resulting in a world that honors and respects all peoples. Spiritual living is only as good as we can actually relate to it and as we apply it in daily living. So each week at this time, we have an application of what we believe. These are thoughts to be put into practice and perhaps for discussion, such as during sharing time after service and any time that it occurs to you, because once you start living this way, life loves an opportunity for you to practice. And so this week's application of what we believe is knowing our internal limits sets our external boundaries. Healthy boundaries can make everything possible in a world that can actually work for everyone. So, as we move into special music time this morning, I'm just taking a little extra introduction. This song will honor the spring solstice. And the equinox, it's called the equinox. And on Earth, there are actually 2 equinoxes every year, one around this time, March 21st, and the other around September 22nd. Sometimes the equinoxes are called either the vernal equinox, which is spring, or the autumnal equinox. And you know, this first time I ever realized that word autumnal is autumn. The autumnal equinox is the fall equinox. Now, these have different dates in either the northern or the southern hemisphere. The March equinox is the vernal equinox in the northern hemisphere, and it is the autumnal equinox in the southern hemisphere. The September equinox is the autumnal equinox in the northern hemisphere, and the vernal equinox in the southern hemisphere. And I realized that, you know, it has its little twists and turns. Notice the way that twist works. This twist is a universal dynamic of creation that is actually playing out everywhere. And that's one of the topics that we're going to be looking at today as we talk about how it is that you hear the word boundary and it feels like a limitation, and yet we're saying that that's going to set us completely free. So, in honor of the solstice, we have our opening song, Change by Kylie.
I love the springtime, it brings me hope. Everything's blooming with light. All things seem possible this time of year. Somehow it all just feels right. But just as I start to get used to the spring, summer decides to arrive. Oh, life is in motion, everything's going to change. Oh, life is in motion, everything's going to change. I love the summer, it brings me love. Everything's fully alive. All things seem happier this time of year. Somehow it all just feels right. But just as I start to get used to the summer, autumn decides to arrive. Oh, life is in motion, everything's going to change. Oh, life is in motion, everything's going to change. I love the autumn, it brings me joy. Everything's colored with light. All things seem easier this time of year. Somehow it all just feels right. But just as I start to get used to the autumn, winter decides to arrive. Oh, life is in motion, everything's going to change. Oh, life is in motion, everything's going to change. I love the winter, it brings me peace. Everything's resting inside. All things seem clearer this time of year. Somehow it all just feels right. But just as I start to get used to the winter, spring then decides to arrive. Oh, life is in motion, everything's going to change. Oh, life is in motion, everything's going to change. Oh, life is in motion, everything's going to change. Oh, life is in motion, everything's going to, everything's going to, everything's going to change.
Good morning. As your practitioner of the week, I wanted to go ahead and share the morning reading from the March 23rd, and it's Reverend Dr. Michael Gott. How many times have you said yes when you have been better to, how many times have you said yes when you would have been better served by saying no? It can be difficult to deny a request of our time or energy or resources. We have been trained to be kind and compassionate towards others. But what about ourselves? What about our needs? If we ignore taking care of ourselves, then our giving can become a bit obligatory or worse, filled with resentment. When I first began establishing boundaries, I felt awkward and guilty about it. I would offer long justifications of why I was saying no. At some point, someone said, "Michael, no is a complete sentence." Really? It was a hard concept for me, but I began to try. Eventually, rather than a long explanation, I could just say, "I'm not available then," or "Ask me again another time," and eventually, "No, thank you." A generous no is more loving than a resentful yes. I'm going to read that sentence again. A generous no is more loving than a resentful yes. Put yourself on your calendar. I practice a monthly reset day. Nothing else goes on my calendar for 24 hours. While I may feel energetic and industrious and decide to handle some overdue projects or chores on my reset day, I do so only if I feel like it. Or I may spend the day in sweatpants reading and ordering meal delivery. The point is, I get a whole day to spend in a way that feels nurturing and loving to myself. And after my reset day, I'm always kinder and more generous to others. Be good to you. Honor yourself. Know where your boundaries are, and then you can let others know as well. So thank you, Reverend Dr. Michael Gott, for those insights. For our morning meditation, please feel free to close your eyes or lower your gaze. Welcoming ourselves into the present moment, let's go within. Deepening our awareness of the present moment, right here and right now. Please get comfortable and move your body into relaxation. Release any tension or stress you may be feeling or carrying. Bring your attention to your spine that goes from your neck down your spine to your tailbone. Feel all those individual vertebrae inside of you. Allow your spine to gently move into a place of relaxation. Release any stress or tension you might be feeling in your spine. Notice the ground or floor beneath your feet. Allow gravity to help support you in this present moment. Imagine the earth physically supporting our human bodies. Become aware of our personal space. Notice the space around our bodies. With our eyes closed, focus on the space beyond our physical bodies. Oftentimes in meditation, when focusing on the space beyond our physical bodies, we imagine our material world. Notice what we claim as belonging to us. Bring your awareness to what is entrusted in our care or what we have stewardship over. Acknowledge this awareness and embody gratitude for the abundance and prosperity. Bring your attention to your breathing. Allow the breath to expand as you breathe in deeply. Feel the spaciousness inside your body as you take a nice deep breath in and breathe out. Becoming more aware of our mind, recognizing that our mental state communicates with us through our thoughts, ideas, and opinions, and personal expression. Honoring our minds with gratitude. Allow our focus to expand our thinking, our being, and our awareness. Let's honor our feelings and emotions. Oftentimes, our emotions are a fabulous indicator of our personal boundaries. Listen to your internal being and these emotions that are communicating with you. Take a moment of silence to truly listen to the message, if any, that your emotions are trying to communicate. What are your emotions telling you? Thank your emotions. Acknowledge them for the wisdom and gently release them. In acknowledging ourselves, open your awareness to your personal energy. What does your authentic energy feel like? Acknowledge your personal time and energy needs. Remember to breathe as you observe your life force energy. Allow your complete life force energy to be in your body right here and right now. If you need to call back energy that belongs to you, or you need to return someone else's energy, gently do that now. Bring your awareness to the beat of your heart within your body. If you feel comfortable, place your hands on your heart to feel your heartbeat pulsing. Notice the love in your heart. Feel the wholeness and oneness in your heart. Feel your true self in your heart. bring your attention to the wholeness and oneness within. Expanding love to our spiritual self. In honoring our spiritual self, allow a greater knowing of what you require for your spiritual health and vitality. How can you more expansively support your personal self-care in this area? Thank your higher self for this time of awareness and self-knowing. Gently breathe into this moment with gratitude and love. Remembering the wholeness and the oneness of you. Honoring that oneness. With gratitude, this meditation time has expanded our knowledge around personal boundaries. It has brought to our awareness that which feels in alignment with our hearts, minds, bodies, and soul. With this expanded awareness, we now have the opportunity to speak our truth and invite others to honor our personal needs. This awareness is like our personal instruction manual that lovingly teaches others how to be in our space and honor our boundaries. Taking another deep breath in and out. When you are ready, open your eyes. And so it is. Amen.
Oh my goodness. If some of you are feeling like, you could just move on to your day from here, thank you, Katrina. That was fabulous. This is one of those moments where it's feeling like a hard act to follow. I'm very grateful that we now shift into some fabulous special music, which actually supports our overall theme today, which is Boundaries Build Bridges. And so this song is Love Can Build a Bridge by the Judds. And actually the video that comes with it magnifies the whole message. This is multicultural because this comes out of the Native American culture, what they put with it, and shows some of the spiritual traditions. And I want to invite you, there's a saying that says, when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. And there's going to be a couple times today where we have the opportunity to really be embellished in another culture's spiritual tradition. And I just want you to imagine, as you listen to this song and watch the video, that you are among these people. Imagine that you're truly visiting, like for an extended period, and allow what you see them saying and believing. Just imagine if you could embellish that belief for yourself. It's one of the things you'll see is that the main characters of this video, as Native American peoples, they have the belief that they can shapeshift into creatures that are their power animals. And so you'll see at the beginning, there are two people, and then suddenly you'll see like either a hawk or an eagle, and then a coyote. And that's the two people. And you'll notice, if you're looking for it, you'll notice that they have literally transferred themselves into those beings. And so go ahead, Vernon.
Satsui, this Jigon Hassan Khan Lit.
والله شد شيء شروش الباوزن ده.
This Joshua Tin Lao, Dinel in.
Gladly walk across the desert with no shoes upon my feet to share with you the last bite of bread I had to eat. I would swim out to save you in your sea of broken dreams. When all your hopes are sinking, let me show you what love means. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Whisper love so loudly every heart could understand. But love and only love can join the tribes of man. I would give my heart's desire so that you might see. The first step is to realize that it all begins with you and me. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time?
देखूं रात को लौंदोले
There is so much in that song, but I just have to take a moment to ask. So if you could shapeshift, what animal would you be? Now, shifting into the theme for today, for the message. The pivotal point in this message is expressed in the application of what we believe for this week. Our internal limits determine our external boundaries. So for our purposes here, internal is talking about our consciousness, our hearts, our souls, our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. Where healthy boundaries are called for, it's very helpful to remember spirit as cause, moving into form. When we can successfully determine for ourselves the limits of what does and does not work for us in our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, then naming and claiming them and setting those boundaries into form is a natural result. The reason it's a natural thing is that our internal thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are continually driving the creative process in our experiences. It's basic spiritual cause reflected in the effects of experience. Basic science of mind. Now, I want to show you something that may give you an opportunity to objectively see and feel how this works in a unique way that I just recently discovered. So Vernon, can you go to the next slide, please? Just give him a moment. That's okay. Okay, so you guys see these interesting 3 hoops here. And I have in my hand one of those hoops. And this is what's called an infinity symbol, or some of you may have heard of a Mobius strip. Thank you, Vernon. And just to give you a little backdrop, as I was going through the ceremony that I went through to prepare to do my graduation and my closing up of my ministerial studies, they had a lovely ceremony for us, and they invited us to bring a symbol. They said, we want you to bring a symbol of your ministry and your spiritual understanding of spirit. And so I've always known about this symbol, but I've never seen one in objective form. The closest you could ever get before I saw this is a piece of paper. If you take a piece of paper, you can twist it and have it do like this. And the point of this is that you can start anywhere on this circle. Right now, I've got my finger on the inside loop. And if you trace it around, you can keep your finger right on the same edge, and it's going to take you to the other side without ever picking up your finger. And you can do this with a pencil. If you had it with a piece of paper, you can take the pen and trace it all the way around and start on one side of the paper. You trace it around, and it will literally carry you to the other side. And that's what I call a Mobius twist. Actually, other people call it a Mobius twist too. And this is the kind of thing that life is always doing. So when we talk about life happening from the inside out, just imagine that the inside rim is your internal life, your spiritual life, then spirit in all kinds of ways in consciousness. And the process of life is continually flowing. It's a flowing energy, and it flows from outside, from the inside out. And then what's important to realize when we talk about that, what we take in with our senses, what we take in with our eyes, our ears, and relating to people, the things that we touch, also then that information comes in and we make meaning of it inside, and it then regenerates outside. So that also, if you started on the outside of this hoop, for someone who's thinking that life is driven externally, we have these external impressions and we take them in and make them what they mean, and then they come back out again, so that this circulation is always happening. And if you think about it, that's what's also happening with the earth, the way we talked about those equinoxes. There's the upper and the lower, and as everything spins around, it flips. The autumnal is the vernal, and the vernal is the autumnal, and vice versa. So, coming back to some basics about how this applies to boundaries, and how what we do with our internal limits then externalizes into our experiences. Our internal convictions express out in the forms and communications of our relationships. In turn, we continually take in impressions from the atmospheres around us and generate our part of creation from the inside out, again and again. Like the circle, it has no beginning and no end. This cycle also has no beginning and no end. It is a continuous process in the flow of spirit through life. And that's one of the reasons it's identified as an infinity symbol, because it just goes on and on. So, boundaries are where we end and someone else begins. Nancy Levin, in her book, Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free, defines boundaries as a limit that you can set to define what you will or will not do, what you will or will not accept or tolerate from others. When we lack conscious and intentional boundaries, we unconsciously tell others that there's nothing of ours that we hold sacred. There's nothing that we would distinguish between ourselves and others. We can feel that we exist for the benefit and use of others only. Of course, naturally, we'll try to stop someone who might harm us, harm our bodies, or try to steal something from us, try to take something that doesn't belong to them. Yet, when we do not let them know what our limits are, we set ourselves up for a whole set of emotions, including resentments, betrayal, and anger over time. And these things build slowly sometimes. You can think in a moment, oh, it's going to be easier to just sweep that under the rug. I don't want to deal with it right now. And it builds over time. That's part of what we talk about shadow energy. Those things that we come up against that we really think in the moment we don't want to communicate, and it just gets bigger and bigger. Fear that comes from a sense of unworthiness, that somehow we do not deserve the space that we require, can keep us quiet, even if we are feeling like a doormat. So, if we desire to express ourselves authentically, then it's up to us to become familiar with and clarify for ourselves these boundaries. Actually, then as we become clear ourselves, then we can begin to really represent ourselves to others. Pardon me. Boundaries are actually the container in which our authentic self functions. Remember, we said our authentic self is actually our soul, but our soul expresses through the constructs of our boundaries in human experience. As we learn to honor our own boundaries and the boundaries of others, using these perspectives of what we would like our boundaries to be respected as, this sets, of course, mutual freedom. And I don't know if you can imagine this, but if everyone is really taking care of their side of the street, then naturally the dance that we do together becomes a dance of harmony, because we all are recognizing where we start and someone else stops, and vice versa. Letting others know what we need keeps us from feeling like doormats and being stepped on. It creates bridges to others by giving them a path to connect with us. It also prevents others from stepping on landmines that they didn't even know were there. Sometimes things can happen and it feels like, well, they should have known that. Didn't they know that? Well, no. If you didn't tell them, they didn't know that. Sharing our boundaries invites us to get to know one another better, opening the potential for closer intimacy and deeper connection because there is deeper, more pervasive safety. Having clarity about our boundaries empowers us to know what is ours to do and be in the world. Until we communicate our boundaries and begin to honor them for ourselves, we cannot possibly really expect others to honor them for us. So this takes time, and it's an ongoing process too. Some of this, I'm sure all of you are aware of and have been doing, but it's an ongoing thing. So taking time to uncover your personal boundaries or determine your boundaries in a special or unique circumstance or relationship is a step to embracing who you truly are. Through compassionate self-inquiry, journaling, and even having conversations with other people that we trust, we can get a clearer picture of what matters to us and what our limits and boundaries are. And one of the things, as this kind of thing unfolds, particularly if something new and different pops up that you have to think about, is, you know, life tends to happen so fast in certain ways. And it can take time to be able to sit and say, hey, whoa, you know, that happened so quick. How do I really feel about this? So one thing that you can do, oh my goodness, Spirit might be trying to tell me something about this. This doesn't normally happen in the middle of a talk. But one thing you can do is use that pause, like in the reading that Katrina did, where Michael Beckwith said, let me stop and think about that. I don't know right now. If someone asks you to do something or participate in something, it's perfectly acceptable. You don't have to say yes or no right away. You can say, let me take a breath and think about that before I respond. And that will give you a chance to really see how you feel about it. Various areas to consider and determine what your boundaries are on kind of an ongoing basis are physically, your body's in your personal space, mentally, your own thoughts and ideas and opinions and their expression. Notice whether you've been tending to go along with what other people's ideas are, and check in with your own thoughts about something, even if it's not a conversation. This is just for you. Emotionally, check in with how you're actually feeling and the emotions that are coming up with it. Materially, what we claim as belonging to us or what is entrusted to our care. Energetically, our time and energy needs, and that tends to be a really big one. That's where that taking a pause comes in, and learning how to schedule time. Yeah, that's one of those boundaries where people say, oh, I don't even like the way that sounds limited. I don't want to use a calendar, and I don't want to use a budget, and I don't want to have all these restraints. But when we learn to use structures such as calendars and budgets, then we're actually becoming directors of our own time. And that's what begins to set us free. And so that's kind of that Mobius twist. It looks and sounds like a limitation, but actually offering that energy, that structure, allows it then to work with us rather than feeling like it's working against us. Spiritually, you have to really honor your own boundaries first, because there isn't anybody in the world that's going to know what you need spiritually for your own health and vitality other than you. So we move from discovering what our boundaries are to how to express boundaries effectively. And I have a reading, a very short reading. It's a piece of timeless wisdom that is taken from a fabulous book, which was recently gifted to me, praise God, called Courage, Conviction, and Consciousness, 365 Days of Inspiration from the Women of New Thought. This is in honor of Women's History Month. It's titled Boundaries and Divine Enthusiasm by Cora Dietrich Fillmore. So she was obviously related to Charles and Myrtle Fillmore of Unity, and I did not get a chance to look up their relationship. She says, the law of divine enthusiasm and spiritual zeal is one of the most powerful laws operated in the kingdom of the heavens. To speak always, fearlessly, truthfully, and courageously, makes for enthusiasm, and establishes a confidence, a sureness that even the angels of heaven must notice and honor. The world has been zealous in advocating for reform. The trouble with all the reforms has been that those who were behind the reforms have tried to compel others to change their ways without changing their hearts. When the principles of practical spirituality get a deep hold on one's consciousness, one is not only willing to change, but to work continuously to lay hold of the spiritual powers that will transform them and thus our experiences. Application of the fundamental principles of spirituality that are love toward God and humanity makes new creatures of men and women. This is true today as it has been down through all the ages. But no great inspiration is going to come from a lukewarm expression. One must be zealous in one's work, courageously zealous. Spiritual conviction is the power that transforms one, that makes one want to be on the righteous side of every proposition. And in this case, the righteous side is what is right for each side. Now, Emily Hoffman, who is a contemporary person on this topic, confirmed this by succinctly saying, we need to have clear yeses and clear nos. For the things you do in your life, it should be hell yeah or a fervent no, absolutely not. At least inside yourself, if not actually expressed that way. Boundaries build bridges. We need to communicate our boundaries. Others cannot read our minds, and it is an assumption that everyone should know that about me. And actually, I encourage you to check into how often you're assuming, especially the people that we love, who tend to pay the worst for some of this. We think, oh, well, you know, Vernon's known me for 26, 30 years. He should know this. No, not so much. That does not absolve us from our responsibility to continue to communicate. It gives us an opportunity to practice courage to be vulnerable. It's an authentic expression because we are sharing who we are rather than who we're not. It gives others a path to connect with us because it is a discussion of what will work together rather than relationships shrinking away and disconnecting as a reaction to what has not been working. And that's where very often you guys heard me say about learning how to fall together rather than falling apart. Communicating our boundaries may feel difficult and scary, but like any skill, it gets easier the more you do it. Avoidance may feel easier, but there are consequences once boundaries have been crossed. There is the natural reaction to push back, bringing with it many challenges and actual forms and emotions. Deciding to be brave and ask for what you need may not initially get the results you hope for. Do it anyway. This being a new conversation may feel to them like you're putting limits on the relationship. These boundaries were always there, but they didn't necessarily know they existed. It's not really that you're just trying to do a 180. It's always been going on, but people just haven't realized it. In my experience, the key to this is timing and how we express or approach what we need to say. Some of you may have heard me express this in an example that's worth repeating about triangulation. Before we start this, often people will try to get us into conversations about other people that are not in the room. And I don't do triangulation. And if you say, I don't want to talk about that, then that can feel confronted. But if you simply say, I choose not to talk about someone who's not in the room, then the confrontation comes off of it and you're simply saying, I'm not available to this conversation. So when you need to say no to someone, you don't have to say, no, I don't want to do this with you. If you turn it around and use an iMessage and simply say, I'm not available to that right now. And then you might say why you might not. Like Katrina was saying in her meditation, Michael Gott had in there, elaborate excuses for saying no. It's not necessary to go through all that excusing yourself or apologizing for your boundaries. Communicating our boundaries may be new, especially if we've been taught to place ourselves second to others. So one thing you can do is to write out what you need to say. If once you've discovered what you need to say, sometimes it's like, oh my God, but I can't imagine myself saying it to that person. Write it down, and literally you can keep the paper with you. And I encourage people to pull out that paper and read it if they have to be able to say what they need to say. And then when the person says, well, what are you doing reading this to me off a piece of paper? Just say, this is how important this is to me, and I wanted to make sure that I communicate it clearly. So there's a few other things that are very helpful to remember or practice with respect to how to communicate and live from your authentic boundaries. Practice the awareness of the distinction between a being and their behavior. It's actually the behavior that we have a problem with. But when we forget that, very often it can get so personal, like, I don't like that person. So there's a book that Brene Brown wrote called The Gifts of Imperfection, which I just even love that title. In there she says, when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. This is why we sometimes attack them and who they are, which is far more hurtful than actually addressing a behavior or a choice. Next, it's not the job of the other person to maintain the boundary you've set. It is for each person to maintain their own boundaries. We may not feel comfortable sharing the boundaries because of beliefs we've had. It may feel selfish or like we're trying to be difficult or even unspiritual. It's still our responsibility. In fact, it doesn't work to expect people to honor our boundaries just because we've even told them one time. Communicating a need we have is about us. It's not about them. You are not doing anything to anyone by knowing and taking action on what you need. Our boundaries are an area of life that calls for continuous maintenance, like brushing your teeth. It's a way of life. Where boundaries are concerned, be mindful that the universe is reciprocal. If you have been challenged by someone, and particularly if you're challenged by a behavior that comes up in more than one relationship, check to see if you might have some of those very same behaviors that are irritating you. Because you will find, such as being talked about, back to that triangulation where you're choosing not to talk about someone who's not in the room. If you don't want to be talked about when you don't know it, the very best thing you can do first is not talk about other people when they don't know it. It's definitely an energetic thing that comes around and goes around. So, lastly, collectively, just as individuals have boundaries, so do organizations and communities. It's part of community culture. Examining the values, mission, and purpose of a group can help to clarify what is important to that group and invite discussions so that community members feel belonging, that community members know who we are, what we're about, which that, we do our mission and vision every week, and now looking at the application of principle. That's a part of defining, even if we don't say, this is our culture, it creates our culture. And so, let me just take a breath here. It's a big topic, and that was a lot. In closing, once we know our boundaries, it's an act of love to share them with others. It invites them to understand us better and communicates the way to our hearts. In another book by Brene Brown, she says, this book is called Rising Strong, The Reckoning, the Rumble, and the Revolution. Compassionate people ask for what they need. They say no when they need to say no. They say yes when they mean it. They're compassionate because their boundaries keep them able to stay compassionate in any situation. Our boundaries guard us from resentments. Authenticity is a practice, and we can start right now, today, living out loud. With that, I just invite us to go directly into speaking the word of truth in affirmative prayer. And as I speak these words, I invite you to craft your own prayer. Start in knowing the one, and that the one, love and law, is right here and right now, in, as, and through you, in, as, and through our entire community collectively, in, as, and through the extended community, through the people that watch our videos on YouTube. And as we recognize the one in and through all, we are unified together in mind, heart, and soul. And from this alignment, I realize right here and right now that as truths have been spoken, as revelations have been made, as light has been let out from under the bushels that we've hidden behind, that those truths truly, increasingly set us free. And as we are set free, increasingly, we know who we are and whose we are and what business we are about, both in joy to be here together and in service to be here together. I am so grateful for this time and everything that has come of it, for the inspirations that have moved through myself and Katrina and all of the people that support this service, the practitioner team, the board, the tech support, everybody that makes this possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. I just simply release it with the heart of a child. I let it be, and so it is.
All right, thank you. Thank you. That was such a great service, Vicky. Thank you for being present with us here today via Zoom and sharing your time, talents, and treasures with us. In the chat, there are ways that you can contribute to the community. But let's go ahead and practice the March Prosperity Affirmation. I have the confidence and courage to see abundance everywhere. My financial prosperity is blessed. And I'm going to repeat that one more time. If you'd like to say it with me, please do. I have the confidence and courage to see abundance everywhere. My financial prosperity is blessed. With abundance and gratitude for the knowingness that we are immersed in abundance in this community, I pass my word with positive intent and love to Miss Vicky.
And I receive Katrina's word, knowing it has already been done. It has been done tenfold this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. Thank you to each and every one of you. And I just easily and effortlessly release it to let it be as it already is.
And so it is. So our announcements for today, on Wednesday, we have a Wistful Wisdom social group that is via Zoom, this same link at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please join us for that.
Wait, Katrina, that's 11 a.m., not to be confused on that side. You actually said 7, it's 11 o'clock, but that's fine. We can move on.
I apologize. Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
fine. Go ahead.
On Monday, March 20th, we have an incredible course that is being offered to the community. I was so blessed to be able to go through the pilot program for this Beyond Limits, and it is a foundational course that goes through how to apply the principles of science of mind to your daily living. It's an incredible course. It's a 10-week course. It will start on March 20th and go through May 22nd. It is on Mondays at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The cost of the course is $150, and the books for the course is approximately $25. Vicky will be teaching the course, and I will be the teaching assistant. And we so look forward to being with you, gathering with you, and deepening those spiritual principles in our everyday living. On March 22nd and March 24th, Miss Vicky will be sharing the Association for Pre and Prenatal Psychology and Health. So please contact Vicky for any details if you would like to join us for this summit. Oh, our guest speaker is Mitch Austin, and he will be joining us next Sunday. The topic is tipping your spiritual apple cart. I am so looking forward to learning the wisdom that he has to share with us next week. I hope to see you here. We have a Zoom board meeting on Monday, March 27th at 5 p.m. at this Zoom link. So please join us. Everyone in the community is welcome. And from our spiritual team to yours, we wanted to share this card. To all our Louisville Center for Spiritual Living community from your leadership team, may you know that you are one with love of spirit and the luck of the Irish. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Please stay for sharing time after the benediction. We also offer prayer support for anyone who would like to have a prayer treatment today. And for all of you to remember, you are magnificent. Our closing song is the Irish Blessing. 300 Irish churches gathered to create this blessing. Vicky, did you want to say more about that?
No, we need to go ahead and move on. So,
okay.
Yeah, just enjoy this. It's a unique experience. In closing, if you'll simply say with me, may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rain softly fall on your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you and enfold you tight in the palm of his hands. Thank you for being here today.